We've reached the end of the summer series. That means new episodes next week, baby! If you're tired of the old cookie-cutter marketing advice and want to take your personal brand to the next level with bold, actionable strategies that truly reflect you, you're in the right place. Let's untangle your marketing mayhem with Zoe, the video confidence coach, on the Unboring Your Brand podcast. Unboring Your Brand was recorded on Wadawurrung land. Oh, just a warning, this episode, for those who are watching the episode, this episode is going to be very pink. Why? Because I did not have my color corrector postcard available for free. Just follow the link below. So I'm going to look a bit pink. So just a warning for that. But we're going to be discussing assistive technology, not just for people with an official diagnosis, but for everyone who has a busy brain and a lot to do. So a lot of the tools that I use to help with my dyslexia, from text-to-speech to voice-to-text to other tools. But since this episode recorded, I have got a couple more tools that I recommend. A tool that I've been using a lot has been Whisperflow, so whisper without the E, whisperflow.ai. You can find the link in the show notes below. That is an affiliate link, so if you click it, I get an extra week. Cool. Just so you know. But this is a tool that I have found quite useful on my devices. Eventually it'll come to Android, where I'm able to just hold down a button and then I can recite what I need to say. Sometimes I do a lot of yapping, and this is a good tool for me to help with the yapping. So, but going on to this episode, we're going to talk more about tools that help you clearly, consistently, and confidently get what's in your brain out onto the digital screen so you can help the customers that need your help. So whether you have dyslexia, ADHD, or just want to work smarter without grinding yourself into the ground because you're so damn tired or typing too much, there is something in this for you in this episode of the Unboring Your Brand podcast. And I would like to posit for you, especially for those of us who have any sort of neurodivergency, as it is classed at the moment. To be honest, I think everyone is a little bit neurodivergent. It's just some people can pass as not. I had to discuss with someone recently about what exactly is what is the opposite of neurodivergent, and I came up with neurostraight. That is not true, but I digress. Come with me into today's podcast episode, where we're going to be talking about assistive technologies for both productivity and efficiency in your business. I know, a rip-roaring title as ever I'd come up with, Zoe, but essentially what I want to talk to you about is how utilizing assistive technologies, and of course I'll go into a description of what that is more beneficial to you than not, and how assistive technologies is not just built for those who are disabled or impaired, and I use very big air quotes around impaired in some way. It's being able to make things more accessible for everyone. So, breaking down my notes in front of me, Zoe. So, there will always be tools to help you find your focus and to be able to help you achieve what you want to achieve, both in your business and in your personal life. And finding these tools can be a case of just experience, of looking for ways of being able to sort your problem out or being able to figure things out. But sometimes you just don't have the words for it. And that is okay. That is what we're going to go through today. But the whole arching umbrella of everything that we're going to be talking about today, specifically my focus for today's podcast episode, is going to be assistive technologies. Now, the word assistive technologies refers to any device, tool, or software that helps people with disabilities or impairments perform tasks they may not have otherwise done, found difficult, or maybe impossible to do otherwise. And of course, I want to stress, as I did just a second ago, assistive tools are not just meant for those of us with disabilities. They're meant to assist everyone, no matter what no matter what impairment you may have. Because I doubt that there are any of us who are perfectly at 100% all of the time. And if you are, I would like to meet you because I don't think you're human. So, how I came across this myself, and I'd like to bring you along in a little story that I've come across, and then we'll get down into some tools and some things that you can use to search for in your own ways of utilizing these tools. So for those of you who may not know, I have dyslexia. Dyslexia is where it is very hard to read because the letters of the words move around. Or in some aspects of dyslexia, when you look at a word, the letters aren't in the right way. So you have to look at a word, dissect where these letters are in a word to be able to read it out comprehensively, usually in front of people. And for a very long time, I struggled with this. I was always just constantly told that I was dumb, that I was stupid, that I did not know how to read the basic word like cat that was right in front of me. And when I was able to do that, then I was stupid because I didn't know how to read house. And then it just progressively got, as soon as I was able to grow and learn and find my own formulas or ways of breaking these words down to make it suit me better and my learning style, the goalposts were always shifted and moved. But I digress. So I was always told throughout my life that I would need support. No matter what I would do, no matter what I needed to do in my life, I would constantly need support. I was told that I wouldn't be able to do reception jobs or do any admin or do any word process heavy jobs throughout my life because of the way that my brain happens to work. I was told, keeping in mind, I was told this when I was 16, despite the fact that I had started my business when I was 14, that I wouldn't be able to successfully run a business because how are you going to be able to do that, Zoe? Well, I'll tell you how, because I was able to use these tools and I was able to work on ways of going around the problem. The way that I've liked to explain this to educational teachers that I have worked with and also been on panels to discuss my dyslexia and how I've been able to overcome my dyslexia. For those who are listening, I'm using air quotes there, mainly because it's not something that I overcome. It's just something that I work on and I work very heavily on to be able to work around these issues to a lesser extent. I like to use a little analogy called the Mona Lisa analogy. So essentially what you can do, and how I like to explain this to people, is imagine the Mona Lisa in your head, just how it looks. All right, so you can picture that in your head. Now draw it, exactly, picture perfect, every line, every brushstroke, every detail, perfectly, do that. No? You're not Leonardo da Vinci? You're not a classically trained artist in oil paints? I say that skeptically because I can't even remember if it's oil paints or not. It probably is. You're not that? Oh, really? Oh, that's a surprise, isn't it? But the way that I have learnt to remember words is being able to see them in context. So say, for example, to remember the word house, I visually remember the... say, for example, when you were maybe in school or in primary school, they would have the alphabet on the wall and they would have a physical, say, for example, cat. They would have a big C that may or may not have been like the letter cat in the letter C with the AT. And I remember being able to see those words and then be able to remember cognitively going back and forth when reading a word, to be able to switch back and forth to be able to understand these longer words or even bigger words because I've seen them in context. For example, spaghetti. I can now see them in my mind on a packet of spaghetti and I can just remember what that looks like and get the letters in the right order. At the end of the day, I'm not really writing letters. I'm more just like copying what the squiggles look like in my head when it comes to writing. When it comes to reading, however, I usually find a quicker format to be able to do that. Again, that pattern recognition, again, like using the Mona Lisa to be able to have those back and forthness. Essentially, all I am to say is that I have found a very complicated way of doing something that people usually find very simple to do. And that is okay. It usually means that I am unable to read large swaths of text because my brain initially, as soon as they see realistically anything more than, say, 5 sentences, my brain initially goes, okay, we are not doing this. That is so much. And I have to push myself a little bit and start utilizing my tools that I'm about to go in for you. How I break that down to make it easier on myself and be able to process the information that I'm being given. Now, of course, this can work great at the start of the day or at the start after a nice weekend or a break. But when I am run down or when I am tired, these tools that I'm about to describe to you, I use even more. And does that make me less than? Does that make me, worse at my job? No. I think the only issues that I've had, to be perfectly honest, is when there's been a couple of spelling mistakes every now and again, which is the reason that I use word processors. I use tools very much like Word or, your basic Google email to be able to tell me, hey, is this word spelled right? Is there a red line under this word? No? Cool, I've spelled it right. And then I will be picked up on it later. But that is why most of my messages that I work with, specifically my clients, are pre-approved. I make sure that they're checked over by more than just one set of eyes. And I do my best to make sure that I have the assistive technology working with me. Now, of course, this doesn't work 100% of the time. But I doubt people that do not have dyslexia are able to ace everything 100% of the time. And again, if you do, I do not think you're human, and I would like to have a chat. So some tools that I'd like to break down for you that you could use in your own business if, for example, you have any struggles or any hurdles that you're coming across. And again, you don't have to use these tools all the time. Maybe it's just at the end of the day, you're getting tired. You want to be able to have something like this next tool that I'm going to describe for you that can make processing the information easier. So, for example, I use voice to text tools, which is known as dictation, to be able to save time and energy when I'm working. What I mean is that I have honed my skills of being able to speak publicly, be able to speak on camera, and I have worked on this over time to the point where the connection between my brain and my mouth doesn't always work, but it's relatively succinct, to the point where when I get asked a question, or for example, if any of you have come to my workshops, you will have noticed that I do the workshop, I answer the questions, and if there are any questions afterwards that maybe I didn't get a chance to answer, or maybe it was a little bit overwhelming, what I like to do is I like to reply if I have your email, or open it up to the floor and reply in both a video format, very much like what I'm doing now, in the live stream, if you're watching on the live stream, or I essentially use these voice to text tools to be able to distill all my information that's coming out of my mouth to be recorded, almost transcribed instantly. And then from there, depending on how much energy I have, I either edit what I have said in text form to be able to send to this person via email, or I run it through an app like ChatGPT, or a MML, a multi-language processor. I've forgotten what it's called. An AI, essentially an app that works with text specifically. Most of them do, pretty much all of them do at this point. But I use an app to be able to distill my ramblings, my words, and my thoughts into something a lot more focused and cohesive for the person who's wanting to get their question answered. Because I don't want you to come to my workshops and not have your questions answered. Now, of course, we don't always have the time, but I, as the instructor, have the time to make sure that your answers are answered. So when, especially after a workshop, especially a very long workshop, to be able to just dictate my words into, say, a paragraph max, to be honest, and then run it through ChatGPT, or run it through, or maybe just if I have a bit of time and energy to be able to edit it, send it through an email. That is more useful than just leaving it hanging or just not doing anything about it. Because having people answer your questions means the world. And I want to be able, not necessarily to form them as leads and then maybe get them as clients, but more because you've come to me for answers. I'm going to do the best to be able to give you the best answer that I can with the knowledge that I have and the experience that I have. It's not always going to be the same answer because, of course, I will grow with more experience, as you will too. But I don't want to leave you hanging. So the tools that I use are a very expensive tool that I pay for called Otter AI. So OTTER.ai is a tool that I pay a lot of money for each year, but it essentially takes my transcriptions, just transcribes them as the most efficiently that I've honestly come across, and it provides AI outputs so then I can have these, long ramblings of 45 minutes into something that I can actually action in these AI summaries. And I can also use this transcript very much like for example, be able to use it for my podcasts, for my live streams, to be able to break down my information into different formats so it is better consumed by people depending on how they learn. Some people don't like watching a video. Some people don't like listening to a podcast. And that is okay. I can easily, and with these assistive technologies, turn that content into something that's more palatable to them. It may not be my cup of tea, but I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it for my customers. And when it comes to the work that you're doing and the reason that you're doing for something in your business, it should be to benefit them, then it should be to benefit you. I digress. Other tools that I use are basic dictation apps. I think I've just got an app on my computer that just is called the Dictation app. And essentially it transcribes my voice using my microphone. And if you're watching on the podcast or on the live stream, you can see it right here. I essentially just talk into it or talk across it, as you should with microphones. And it streamlines my work in process because I don't need to constantly keep going over my words, because I have to use multiple different processes in my brain to just get the words on the page. I can just speak. And because I'm more comfortable with that, I can then use that knowledge later on. I then also use the opposite, the text to voice tools. Essentially read aloud text so that it is in a method that is easier for me to hear and be able to consume the large swath of information or research that I am reading. And to be able to have something being spoken to me in my headphones compared to seeing a large swath of text, it is so much easier just to spend the 30 seconds to actually listen to what's going on and then be able to action what I'm actually reading into something useful. For example, to be able to distill my thoughts into, again, I listen to something being read out from, say, a report or a survey that I read. I read an awful lot of those, I must say. And then I read, say, 3 or 4 paragraphs, and then I switch to my transcribing service, and I just transcribe my thoughts into a way that is easier for me to then utilize into an educational piece, into a blog, into a live stream, into a podcast, into something that is useful for you. And that's how I find I best learn things. And when you are someone who is growing a personal brand, to be able to form a habit of educating your customers, your leads, your potential leads, on what you're passionate about is the best way for you to learn and reinstate that learning over time. So another tool that I like to use is what is called as a text expansion tool. So utilizing really quick shortcuts on a keyboard, essentially I am able to expand these, say, 3 different what seem like random keyboard strokes to be able to expand into a much larger multi-sentence piece of text. So say, for example, a good example of this is a term that I like to use is "thank you for your patience." It's not me apologizing for being late, because I'm not being late, but I'm doing my best to make sure that I get the information to you as soon as possible. So instead of me typing out "thank you for your patience" every time, I go semicolon TU, and bam, it automatically expands that text out into that sentence, and then I can just keep typing. Of course, this takes a bit of learning, and I've had to get a couple of my clients and a couple of my business associates on board who have just side-eyed me a little bit. But to be able to use this for templates, say, for example, if you write a lot of emails, which honestly I think a lot of us do, to be able to have some sort of templates that you can just, again, the most easiest way for you to do that is press a couple of different keystrokes together, And of course, you would use stuff that is not a word, my recommendation. So say, for example, what I like to do is I like to use the semicolon and then a letter and then another letter, and then the program that I like to use called A-Text, but there are plenty of options out there, both free and paid. So again, depending on how you're using this tool, then expands that knowledge, because it's very unlikely that you are going to be typing a word that starts with a semicolon and then a letter immediately after that. I don't know you, but however you do things. And of course, this tool has been able to save me time and also allows me to be very accurate, because there are plenty of words that I just do not get, that because they're English or they're French, they've got E's for some reason, or they've got like weird vowels in various places. And I can never really, no matter how much I try and skew that little squiggly red line, I never seem to get it right. But I use the text expander tool to be able to just not have to think about how to spell this word, and I can just get my message out there cleanly, easily, and repeatedly, because it is spelled correctly. Another tool that I mentioned just briefly before is utilizing text-based AI tools like ChatGPT, mainly because there are other tools out there. And again, depending on what you actually want to achieve, there are always more accessible tools. Now, of course, there are a lot of caveats, especially when it comes to AI and the information that it's using and taking of your information. But to be perfectly honest, when it comes to not exactly answering someone's email, but when it comes to, say, for example, applying for a grant, there is a lot of information that you really just need to shove in there. And for some reason, I'm not sure about yourself, but whenever I apply to grants, and I might even have a podcast episode about this in the future, it's always on like a Friday afternoon for some reason, and there's like due on like 5 p.m. that Friday, and I get told about on like midday. So by the time I'm applying to the grant, I'm already tired. I'm already exhausted. And to be able to use apps like this, again, to be able to use a dictation app and just distill all this information that it wants in a succinct fashion. Cool, done. We're doing it. Woo! And again, this is I'm not doing this to sell anyone on anything. I'm doing this to tick the boxes. So to do that, it makes sense to use something like a tool like that. And other tools that are useful are, that I haven't written down because I'm smart like that, is essentially, I can't think of them right now, but what I would recommend is just spending time thinking about your processes. Like taking a breath and realizing, okay, what am I doing or what am I spending all my time on that I could make more efficient for myself? Are you spending a lot of time in your emails? Okay, well then you can look up, assistive technology that can help you with the typing, that can help you with the sending, maybe working on how to schedule your emails. That is something, that is an assistive technology tool that a lot of people don't really realize is an assistive technology tool, I should say. That allows you to be able to schedule emails to be sent later on. So for example, you may be working on something, and I do this a lot with my clients in both my CRM and my email technology, where I think, I have to remind them about this. Oh, I don't have to remind them about this for another couple of days. I will just schedule an email to be sent off, and then they'll get back to me when they can. You've taken a lot of the stress and work out for yourself to make things easier for you, and you're going to be on top of things more than you were in the past. So I know I've given you a couple of examples, but if you have any examples of assistive technology that you use, for example, on my phone, I use a simple tool that enables me to highlight an area and it reads the text out to me. I'm able to use screenshots and other tools like that to be able to save what I'm reading, and then again, use that technology where it can read the text on screen. There is going to be more options out there, and as things progress, hopefully there will be more tools for you to use and to make things easier for you, for both your brain power, but also just the amount of energy that you have. Because, hey, I was told that I wouldn't be able to run a business. even though I'd already been running a business for 2 years by that point, and I continue to do for the past 15 years. Wait, yeah, 15 years. Ha! They can't tell me what to do. Wrapping up the episode today, remember that assistive technology isn't cheating, it is adapting, because it's bloody smart. So, tools like voice to text, text expansion can help you save hours of mental energy as well as physical energy. I want to be able to go home and do the things that I like without having to fall asleep straight away. I want to be able to chat with my family and enjoy my free time that is not just spent working in front of a desk. So if these tools can help you do that, hopefully they'll be helpful. And these tools are not just for special cases or for specific people. They are for everyone to get their work done without burning out. Speaking of burning out, if you are building a personal brand but struggling to keep up with the content chaos, make sure you join the Camera Ready Club. I send practical email pings, and actually not that many, as much as I potentially could be, to help you show up on video using the tools that work for you and grow a brand that reflects your actual brain and not just a robot version of yourself. You can check out all the details at vcc.training/camera-ready-club. And next week, we are going to be starting the 2026 podcasts. So we're done with the summer series. This is the end. Parting is such sweet sorrow. And yes, you are going to, for those who are experiencing winter right now, hats off to you. Rest of us are experiencing summer. Everything's fine. But next week, we are going to get into the year of podcast episodes. You still have a chance to contribute to the years of the Unboring Your Brand podcast episodes. So if you have any podcast topics you'd like me to discuss, please do email them at gday, so GDAY at vcc.training. That is my email where you can send those topics to me. And I'll make sure I cover them in our weekly, Friday at 10 a.m, Camera Ready Confessions, an hour live stream where I answer your questions. See you then. Thank you for listening or watching Unboring Your Brand. You can find detailed show notes with tools, offers, and episode transcriptions. Just click the first link in the description or go to vcc.training/podcast. Get involved and ask me anything about personal branding, video strategy, or just a friendly small business chat via my email, g'day@vcc.training. That is GDAY@vcc.training. The Video Confidence Coach would like to acknowledge and pay my respects to the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation, the traditional custodians of the land on which I record my podcast. I pay my respects to their elders past and present. I stand with the traditional custodians of these lands in working towards a more equal future. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. Look forward to me chatting at you next week, superstars.